Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Fancy Football Fix Double Game Week 22 live stream. My name is FPL Nacho, and I am here to hopefully guide you in these crazy times right now in FPL. Try and answer some of your questions going into this 6:30 deadline. So remember, we've got just over an hour until this Game Week 22 deadline. So while I really appreciate you guys jumping on this live stream, make sure you do have your team in the back of your mind and have those transfers planned a little bit more in advance, because we do know that 10 minutes before that deadline is a bit of a danger zone with what happened in the site recently. So thank you to everybody that has jumped into the live stream right now. Make sure you do give it a like and hit that subscribe button. We're trying to hit a bit of a landmark before the deadline, so we really do appreciate you guys getting involved and hitting that subscribe button. I see plenty of people in the chat already. FPL Phillips, hope you're doing well. Ricardo, we've got Mike, we've got plenty of people in. So as I said, guys, drop your questions in the comment section. I'm going to be definitely answering them throughout this video. That is the most important thing, of course. Now, quick recap. Where are we at right now? So we know that the Burnley versus Leicester game, one of the double game weeks that they had in this game week, has been postponed due to COVID. Now, that still leaves with Leicester one single game week alongside Burnley, but that has gotten rid of brilliant opportunities for the likes of Maddison, Tielemans, even Harvey Barnes as double game week players. So if you didn't know that already, I've just given you an update on that now. The other big headline was about Cristiano Ronaldo's fitness going into double game week 22. Time of recording right now, we don't exactly know if he is 100% fit going into the double game week 22. However, he hasn't been ruled out either. So just tread carefully in regards to Cristiano Ronaldo. Still think he's a good option, but hopefully we can get some more news in the coming hour just to make sure we know if he's definitely fit. But let me know in the chat, guys, if there's any more information in regards to Cristiano Ronaldo. So really appreciate you guys jumping in the chat. What we're going to do first and foremost, I'm just going to get the Fixture Analyzer up for Game Week 22 on Fancy Football Fix, just so we can quickly recap on the situation. We're going to do this very briefly, then we can get involved in getting involved in the site, looking at the premium tools available. And as always, guys, if you haven't already, make sure you upload the squad for free, get access to all of the tools available, and even consider our premium membership going forward for the second half of this season. So as you can see that right now, we have Watford as the best fixtures going into game weeks 22 away to Newcastle and Burnley. Now, obviously, Newcastle, very difficult team to anticipate right now with the new signings of Trippier and Wood. Not sure if it's going to reinvigorate the squad or it's going to keep them at the level they're at right now. But either way, these two fixtures for the likes of King and Dennis look like great opportunities for double game week players. And while we're losing double game weeks, they look like the team that are going to probably benefit the most in terms of ownership with managers the likes of King and Dennis. So if you haven't got a Watford forward already, I would really consider them in this double game week 22. We're going to come on to the projected points in a little bit in this video. Brighton up next with Palace and Chelsea at home. We know defensively they are very good value for money. So the likes of Sanchez, even Cucurella in defence offer great alternatives in this game week. With Chelsea, we don't know what sort of team they're going to be running into this game week with. Obviously, they're carrying a couple of injuries, a few COVID cases. There could be potential there possibly for the attackers like Trossard if you want to pick up a differential. Now, Man United, the big one, away to Villa and Brentford. I've touched on this in plenty of videos, guys. I think this is going to be a tricky game week for Man United, but that doesn't mean that their players aren't top of the list for projected points. The likes of Ronaldo's and Fernandes's are right up there for the projected points. Again, going to touch on that in a minute. The other doublers, Spurs, Brentford and Chelsea. Everyone else is single game weeks. And just to reiterate, you don't have to own all double game week players. Single game weeks are perfectly fine. With the likes of, well, Burnley at home to Watford, yes, but the ones I'm really looking at is West Ham at home to Leeds, Antonio and Bowen looking brilliant options, and Liverpool at home to Brentford. Do you dare not go without Trent Alexander-Arnold or Jota? I really don't think it is worth the headache. I think both of those are still brilliant options going into this double game week, even though they have single game weeks in here. So, dropping in the questions right now. Ricardo, Watkins to Dennis / King, or play Connor Cody, I imagine, and bench Watkins, I think you probably are saying. So, first up, Dennis versus King. Let's bring up a comparison here between the two, because I know that this is quite a popular transfer going into this double game week. It's been a real deliberation all season which direction to go into between Dennis and Josh King. You can see there on the points per game, Dennis is leading the way on 5.4. We know this because of the hauls that he has been having in recent game weeks. To my frustration, because I have been a Josh King owner and he has been absolutely killing me recently, even though the underlying stats are still looking very good for Josh King. So we know they have a double game week, but we know that Emmanuel Dennis is leading the way on points per game. I know a lot of you tuning in right now just care about the outcome, which is perfectly fine. How can I deny you guys going for Dennis when he is the leading point scorer over Josh King? But for those that do enjoy the underlying stats, we know that there's definitely a case for Josh King and going forward. Now, you can see on the touch heat map here, this is from game weeks 21 to game weeks 20, game weeks 1 to game weeks 21. So we have a big data sample size here, but we do know that there have been changes in positions between the two. Dennis of recent game weeks has been operating a bit more centrally and Josh King off the left, whereas earlier on in the season we definitely saw Josh King as the centre forward in the side and Dennis operating much more on that left flank. So the heat maps here are a little bit mixed. Of course, I can dip into specific game weeks if I want to on our player heat map section. I'm just going to keep it as a general overview for now, just because I'm conscious of time. Now, when we come down here to the general underlying stats, they've both played very similar minutes. You can see, obviously, 8 goals for Emmanuel Dennis, but it's Josh King that leads the way in the expected goals, almost doubling Emmanuel Dennis's at 6.58. But shots on target, shots on the box, very, very close, slightly favouring Emmanuel Dennis. But we can see why in the underlying stats department, a lot of managers right now are going for Josh King. And the big thing for him, and we should know this going forward, is Josh King on penalties is more than certain. We think he is definitely still the penalty taker in this Watford side. And while that still remains and the underlying stats still look solid for Josh King, I still think he is the go-to option in the Watford pair. Now, I know Emmanuel Dennis with a recent form is very difficult to ignore, but I still want to go for the underlying stats department. I think Josh King still nicks it there. But of course, guys, let me know in the chat, who are you favouring right now? I really do appreciate that. The likes of Emmanuel Dennis is very difficult to ignore right now. But Ricardo, I hope that has answered your question in regards to Watkins or to Dennis or King. The big thing I would say, guys, in regards to Aston Villa is they are going to have a double game week at some point. We don't know when it is. There's been a lot of rumours about it dropping in double game week. Well, a potential double game week in 23. So if you were to sell Watkins going into this game week, which based on their single game week in 22, I think is a viable option, just be considerate that there's a solid chance that Aston Villa could have a double game week in 23 potentially, or in the near future, which is only want to make you go back to Watkins. So just be cautious of that move in regards to Watkins. Mike saying, if you haven't free hit yet, best replacements for Son and Tony. Yes, he still has Tony, right? Well, in regards to Tony, with the situation we have right now in fantasy football, I am basically playing it on, if you have playing players, that is a good enough reason to keep them right now. Analyse the rest of your squad and then decide whether you want to sell a playing player. Now, with your situation right now, you have Son, who is guaranteed to be out for double game week 22. So that should be your absolute priority right now. In regards to Tony, we know that he is absolutely locked for game time. Yes, he has got 2 really tricky fixtures in this double game week, but we know he's on penalties, his game time secured, and I think right now the priority should be on Son, and then you need to weigh up whether a points hit, I assume is the situation you're in, is the direction you want to go in. I don't think it is worthwhile. So in regards to Son replacements, this is a really tricky one right now because, as we know, the Leicester options in Maddison and Tielemans and Barnes were really viable picks because of their double game week. Now that the favourable Burnley game has been taken away, we're left with a Leicester versus Spurs game, which I really don't think is worthwhile a sideways investment into these single game week assets. So I can't believe I'm saying this, guys, but right now I think that does leave us with a certain Bruno Fernandes. Now, I've got a player heat map section here in comparison to the guy that you're going to be selling in Son to Fernandes, just to see how he's been operating so far this season. Now, we know with Fernandes, he's been under Solskjaer and now Rangnick and hasn't been delivering at all this season. 72 points, 4 points per game is a mile off from what he was operating last season. Now, the big selling point for Fernandes right now as a Son replacement, first and foremost, you need money in the bank to make this move. Fernandes currently priced at 11.6 million. is going to see you need a little bit of money in the bank, maybe about 1 million, to make the sideways move from Son to Fernandes. So first and foremost, you need to weigh up, do you have the cash available? The reason why I do like the Son to Fernandes move is basically because, first and foremost, you're getting a double game week player. And I would like to think that Fernandes is pretty much locked on to minutes in this double game week 22. One of the key players in that midfield. Yes, he is not playing very well, but I don't see many players who are going to take game time away from him. And Villa and Brentford, yes, they are tricky on paper, but our projected points do still have him to do well in the double game week 22. And the other reason I really do like Fernandes as a replacement for Son, apologies my voice guys, is that he offers a brilliant placeholder for Mohamed Salah. I need a drink guys, and I just want to say here, beer. This game week has drove me to drink at 5:30 UK time, which is ridiculous for me. That just shows the extent that FPL is getting to right now. I'm all over the shop. So, in regards to Fernandes, a brilliant placeholder for Mohamed Salah. And we know that he is likely to return in game week 24. So while you're going to need a little bit more cash in the bank to go from Fernandes to Salah, I think it just really operates well in your midfield. Because if you go down from Son into a likes of Mason Mount, that's going to free up plenty of money in the bank. And while, yes, you can sit on that cash in your bank, you just need to be a little bit more careful about how much you leave in the bank in future transfers in case you go slightly over, getting carried away in game week 23 and end up not having enough money in that bank to go back to Mohamed Salah. Whereas Fernandes, the money's just sat there. You don't have to worry about it at all. Now, that's enough of me rambling. Let's quickly look at Fernandes so far this season. Of course, he's the left-handed side player heat map, Son on the right. And you can see so many of these touches coming in that middle third of the attacking pitch there. Really not enough touches that I want to be seeing in the final third. A few set pieces on corners, but not predominantly in comparison to Son. And yeah, not the areas that I want to be seeing from a so-called attacking midfielder in a Man United side. And again, I'm comparing this to Son, as we know Son's been a brilliant asset so far this season. And although Fernandes is getting a lot of hate in FPL so far this year, you can see that he isn't doing too bad in comparison to Son. 5 goals in comparison to Son's 8, 3.58 expected goals in comparison to Son's 6.79. That's really where Son does run away with it. But we have to remember, we can't compare this season's Fernandes to last season's Fernandes. All of his stats were with penalties this season that's been taken away from him due to Cristiano Ronaldo. So his expected goals are naturally going to be considerably less than what we were seeing last season. But 40 shots, really decent shot volume. 10 of those on target is probably the thing that I'm a little bit worried about. Probably hints at long range shots. As you can see, only 18 in the box of those 40. So he is going for the classic Fernandes long range shots, which I don't want to be seeing as an FPL manager. The expected assists are still there at 4.86 in comparison to Son's 2.8. So when I look at these underlying stats, and yes, I think a lot of us have turned Fernandes into a bit of an FPL kind of clown, really. I think there's still some value in going for Fernandes in this double game week 22. Then you have the option to maybe roll with him at home to West Ham in game week 23 and have a nice sideways move to Salah. And the one thing I do like about Fernandes, if there's going to be any doubt about Cristiano Ronaldo being injured in this game week, that means that Fernandes is going to be the penalty taker, which just adds another string to his bow as a game week 22 option. So that again isn't guaranteed, but if he is going to be out Cristiano Ronaldo, we know that Fernandes is going to step up on penalties in this game week. So that is a quick cover, guys, of Fernandes there. Of course, I'm sure we're going to have plenty of questions, but I hope doing that early on in the video, that is just going to kind of cover off that subject a little bit and prove to you guys that I still think he is a solid pick going into game week 22. So I see a few people saying they've wasted a transfer bringing in Maddison. Again, with the landscape we have right now in FPL, I really just have to urge you guys not to make early transfers. I know that you want to catch value, and it seems like games are not going to get postponed. We've seen in this situation that every game is at risk. And just please do not make early transfers. Do Spurs still have a double game week now? Yes, they do have a double game week now. We can see it on the fixture analyzer here. They have home to Arsenal and away to Leicester. There's been a few rumours about Spurs' game against Arsenal being postponed due to the injuries that Arsenal are suffering. But at the time of recording, and again, that's all we can do, guys, is go in the present moment, especially with the deadline in less than an hour away. That just means that we have to roll with the dice and expect the Spurs versus Arsenal game to be going ahead. We can't be making assumptions necessarily that they're not. But in terms of Spurs, probably Kane is the go-to option in that attacking department. So we've got a question over Bridge saying Morpay or Daka. That's quite an interesting one right now. I think Daka, we think, is going to be available for game week 22. But I think with the injury that he has suffered going into this game week, we know he's not necessarily going to be fully fit, which probably means that he is going to be a slight minutes risk going into this game week. And with the likes of the Watford pair in Dennis and King, I think there's probably better options there than going for someone like Daka. Sabalo saying, I have 4 midfielders out, wildcard or free hit or a -12. Okay, so this is a really tricky one right now for managers. I think if you're in a situation where 4 midfielders are out, the wildcard is a very tricky thing to do right now because games are still postponed. We don't know about the doubles that are coming up. If you wildcard into a team, you don't know whether long term that is going to be a viable team. You could pile into certain teams and then find out the other teams that you left have got brilliant doubles in the coming game weeks, and that means you're going to have to rip up that wildcard team again and go for a different direction. So I don't think that necessarily a wildcard is the best move. I think a free hit is viable if you really can see your team not really performing very well this game week, but I think the point set, maybe not a -12, maybe a -8 is the best route to play if you're bringing in double game week players. So we've got a few questions there about comparisons between Bruno, KDB, looking at players, how they're going to perform this game week. I'm going to bring up the projected points for game week 22 so we can get an idea on who the players to target are going forward. Now, I'm going to filter this by just game week 22 alone, just so we can get a real isolated look on who the best players are projected to score points. And there's no surprises right now. Cristiano Ronaldo is top of the tree at 10.3 points predicted with those away fixtures to Villa and Brentford. Now, of course, he is flagged in the game. We don't know 100% the injury status on him right now, but I think it's a situation where if he can play, he is going to start. I don't think they can risk not playing him. But I appreciate if managers right now are in a situation where they're debating whether to go for Ronaldo because of the injury risk. I think there's probably enough doubt there that if you are worried about it, leave it. I don't think you need to necessarily rush into it because, as you can see, the Harry Kane, yes, he is less in terms of projected points at 8.8, but still not considerably miles off Cristiano Ronaldo and a player that you know is going to get guaranteed game time in this double game week 22. But you can see that Ronaldo is still the standout option. If you do have him, you definitely just got to hold him, hope for the best that he plays both games because projections-wise look great for him in that double. Now, if you guys tuned into previous videos, you would have known that the likes of Maddison and Tielemans were right behind Cristiano Ronaldo in projected points, but because of those postponements, they're out of the equation right now, which is a real shame to see. And somebody who has emerged is David De Gea. Somebody who wasn't in the projected points at the start of the week now has emerged as the third best option. And thrown into the mix a potential differential captain going into this double game week. Now, away to Villa and away to Brentford, we saw in the cup match that Villa do have the creative players available to cause problems for Man United. And while a clean sheet against Aston Villa might not necessarily look the most promising, I think away to Brentford looks like a great opportunity for him. I think the big thing for David De Gea as well is he isn't like an Edison or Alisson who picks up easy clean sheets and gets minimal touches. He's an all-action goalkeeper who gets plenty of saves each and every game. And even if he wasn't to keep a clean sheet, you know he might rack up a couple of save points here and there to compensate for the clean sheet wipeout that he might suffer, in particular away to Aston Villa. So while I much prefer the attacking players like Ronaldo's, like Kane's, even maybe a single game week player like Jota you can see on the list there at 7.6, David De Gea could be a nice differential if you want to go down that route. But goalkeepers naturally aren't the most popular captaincy picks. You see Alonso, Mason Mount, and then we come to Fernandes at 7.9 projected points. Now, again, in terms of minutes, I think he's pretty locked on for minutes over this double game week. And at 7.9 projected points, I think he is definitely a viable option to consider. Now, it's really interesting that the likes of Mason Mount, who is about 4 million cheaper, is projected to score basically the same amount of points as Fernandes and definitely throws in a bit of a consideration for managers who weren't even considering Chelsea assets. We know their fixtures away to Man City and Brighton. I personally think they are tricky games for Chelsea attacking assets, but we've seen with the return of Kovacic, Jorginho and Kante, just the control in the midfield is everything under Tuchel. And it's no surprise that the results are starting to pick up, in particular at the return of Kovacic. Chelsea's structure is very much about playing a 5-and-5 sort of split in the team, and having possession in that midfield is absolutely key to play out from the defence. And that is what Kovacic and Jorginho offer to this Chelsea team, whereas Loftus-Cheek really didn't bring that. So with Mason Mount, I think with the return of those two midfielders, which is quite surprising to think is going to help him from a creative perspective, I think he's a really nice differential to go for, in particular if you're playing your free hit in game weeks 22. So guys, let's have a quick look at the chat again. We got question here: is it worth bench boosting for Sanchez, Martinez, Tia? Okay, so we got a big old list here. So we got Sanchez with a double, Martinez with a single at home to Man United, Trent, Alonso, Cucurella with double, Cancelo, Diaz with singles, Gundogan, Maddison, Gray. I think it's definitely a viable choice to go for a bench boost there. I think the big thing I would say is, with the double game weeks coming up, there's going to be plenty of opportunities to play your bench boost in times where COVID might not be as crazy as it is right now. And you might have an opportunity to bench boost with a squad which has a few more doublers than you do right now, because I can only see 3 or 4 doublers in there. So I probably would hold off on the bench boost, but I do think it's a nice time if you do want to go down that route. Ahmed saying, what about Bruno as captain? You can see on our projected points there, Ronaldo, if you own him, is a brilliant option to go for. But if you are bringing in Bruno Fernandes, I really do think that he is a viable captaincy choice. Potential penalties if Ronaldo is out, guaranteed game time. And while his underlying stats aren't exactly like they were last season, he's still a creative force in this Man United team. They are better with him. I think he's definitely a differential captain to consider. So he's saying, Mcallister captain, someone give me their opinion. Well, in regards to Mcallister of Brighton, of course, he has a double game week this week. Just bringing him up here in the Fixture Analyzer. We can see here that Brighton have Crystal Palace at home and Chelsea at home. Now, Mcallister is somebody that hasn't necessarily been on a lot of people's radars, but somebody who has picked up a few goals in the past few game weeks. Looking at our projected points over the coming game weeks, if we look at Mcallister as a consideration, we can see there that he's projected to score 4.7 points in this game week. Now, of course, being registered as a midfielder, he is in direct competition with the likes of Trossard. And it's 6.1 million and projected to score 6.4 points. I think Trossard would be the favourable option in that Brighton team. Neither player are breaking the bank. And I think if you had the funds available, going to someone like Trossard is probably just going to pay the dividends while you pay a tiny bit more cash to go for someone like Trossard. So I think Trossard's probably the one outside of him or Mcallister. Frederick saying, please, when to free hit? Okay, well, free hit is very, very much team dependent on your status right now. As I mentioned, free hitting into a game week, which is pretty crazy in regards to COVID cases, is very difficult. Obviously, if you were building a free hit at the start of the week, you've now probably removed all of your Leicester players. So if we are considering a free hit, what I'm going to do now is bring up the Fantasy Football Fix algorithm squad. You're going to see this, guys. This is obviously dropped on our Twitter page. So if you haven't already, make sure you head over to our Twitter, Fantasy Football Fix, and make sure you follow us there. But I'm going to give you guys a quick view on our Game Week 2 algorithm squad. Now, of course, this has been changed based on the cancellation of the Leicester versus Burnley game. Otherwise, the likes of Maddison's definitely would have made an appearance in this algorithm squad. But if you are looking to free hit, I really would urge you guys just to check this team out, as we have it projected to do very well this game week. Now, in between the sticks, we have David De Gea. As I mentioned, I've touched on David De Gea. While clean sheets might not necessarily come in both of the games, I think save points are definitely there for the taking for David De Gea. So I think he's a brilliant option as a free hit option. And even long term, I think David De Gea is a nice move. Now, Cucurella is somebody who has been on a lot of people's radars recently. Some great work in the community recently looking at bonus points, and Cucurella in particular has shot up as a bonus point magnet going into game weeks 22. Basically, with the way he's playing, with his pass completion, with his attacking threat, and for the Brighton clean sheet, a brilliant option as a bonus point, and coming out above Lamberty in our projected points. So I think Cucurella is an excellent differential on your free hit. Remember, if you're looking longer term, Brighton do have a blank game week in. Let me just bring it up a minute, guys. Apologies. Brighton do have a blank game week in game week 24. So if you're looking longer term, just be considerate of that down the line. And as I said, guys, single game weekers should not be moved out of your teams for doublers in certain situations. And the Liverpool duo of Trent and Jota completely fall under that category. I would not be selling either of those players going into double game week 22 at all. Both are projected to do very, very well and arguably have one of the best fixtures in game week 22. Now, surprisingly, Alonso is appearing in our algorithm squad. With the injuries to Chilwell, his game time looks pretty secure, and while we're not really necessarily expecting too much from them in the Man City fixture, defensively, still a very, very good team, and there's still a chance of them picking up a clean sheet against Man City, but it's the Brighton game where the real value could come into the equation. And for a Chelsea defender like Alonso, who offers brilliant attacking potential, a brilliant pick as in a free hit team if you want to go for a player that has, of course, attacking potential and defensive returns. Now, no surprises, Fernandes is appearing in the team with the absence of plenty of premium midfielders like Son and single game week premiums like Kevin De Bruyne. Trossard appearing, as I mentioned, I think is a great differential alongside Mount. Mount, again, we mentioned, probably the most guaranteed game time in this Chelsea attacking lineup. Jota, I've touched on. Now, Ronaldo currently sat with the captaincy armband. And as I mentioned, if you do own Ronaldo, I think he is an easy captaincy option. Projected points are more than any other player in game weeks 22, and we know that he will be on penalties if he does feature for Man United. King just winning the battle between him and Dennis. We touched on that earlier on in the video, a comparison between the two. I think King is probably the man to go for in that Watford duo, and Harry Kane completing our free hit team. Kane, I think, is still a brilliant option. In terms of underlying stats, he has picked up under Conte while he hasn't reached the heights of last season. Still think he's a nice option. I do think the absence of Son is going to hinder him from an attacking perspective. I don't think that necessarily Lucas Moura offers the same sort of dynamic that Son does. Doesn't compensate or balance Kane as well. Son getting behind the defence. Moura isn't necessarily that kind of player. But I do think Kane, with penalties, again, as we know, is a great option in your free hit teams. So, guys, let's get into the questions again. Guys, make sure you drop any questions you do have and try to get through them, as well as cover off some of our premium tools available on the site. So, Supreet saying, best captain out of De Gea, Trent, Jota or King. Well, we touched on it. I think David De Gea, in terms of the projected points, is right up there. But, of course, with the only, with clean sheets and save points, only the real kind of way of him picking up points, I think Trent offers a really nice option as well as a single game week player. Mason Mount, we touched on that one, Waleed. I hope that helps out. Mike saying, I think, God, apologies, guys. Chat's just completely skipped a lot of people. So we're going to kind of just pick up where we left off and try and cover as many as we can. So, Joel's saying Danny Ings as an option. So I think right now, with the signing of Coutinho, we don't really know how that's going to impact this Villa starting lineup. So I think Danny Ings versus Watkins, I personally think that Watkins is the better alternative. Danny Ings, yes, a great goal scorer, but minutes are still getting managed. Don't think he's necessarily up to full fitness or isn't as fit as Watkins, for example. So I think Danny Ings is a little bit of a risk going into this game week as an option. Marcus is saying Son to Lucas or Mount to Bruno. I would probably look at doing Son to Lucas, and the main reason being is because Son to Lucas or Mount or Bruno. As I mentioned, this is all about the strategy you have in your team. If you want to have a placeholder for Salah, I really do like the Son to Bruno move. He looks good for game week 22. Otherwise, Mount offers a brilliant differential to Bruno at a much cheaper price. I would probably go for Mount if it was Mount versus Lucas. A lot of people saying about Cristiano Ronaldo, Fernandes. Hope I've covered those off in the recent comparison that I've gone for. A lot of people saying about Dennis as their option. Tommy said Captain King or Ronaldo. It's got to be Ronaldo right now based on our projected points. Burnley versus Watford is in doubt. Okay, yes. So it's worth mentioning, as Abdur said there, because Burnley's game got called off due to COVID reasons and them playing not too far after the possible game against Leicester that has been postponed, that clearly makes that game at risk of going ahead. So it is worth mentioning that if you're looking to bring in Watford options. Again, we can't make assumptions and make all our decisions based on that, but there is definitely a chance there that it could be at risk. Okay, so we've got Azim saying Reece James replacement. So yes, I think right now if you're sat there with Reece James, I do think it is the time to sell him if you haven't already, just because he's got no date to return right now, and I think at his price point is too much cash in your squad for you to hold on to it longer term. Now, as we mentioned in terms of the algorithm predictions, if you want to look a bit longer term and not just at game week 22 in isolation, we're going to bring up the next, if I can do my maths correctly, the next 5 game weeks. We're going to be looking at defenders. Now, of course, the projected points here are slightly skewed because game week 22 being a double, we might see a few players here that if we were to remove double game week 22, we'd see different players emerge top of the tree. Now, it goes without saying, if you don't have Trent Alexander-Arnold right now, what are you doing? Bring him into your squad. Robertson, I do like, but I just think it blocks you from going for triple ups Liverpool. I think the ultimate triple up is Trent, Jota and Salah when he returns. So in terms of Reece James replacements, again, without knowing your team, Trent and Cancelo have got to be absolutely top of the list. And as I mentioned, in terms of game weeks 22 in isolation, I really like Cucurella from Brighton as a nice punt, but remember game week 24 is a blank for him, so you need to make sure that the squad depth is there. But I'll leave up the projected points here on screen just so you can check out the best options over the next 5 game weeks. So we've got JJ saying I have both Maddison for Son, but now only have a single game week. Yeah, it's really unfortunate if you went early on someone like Maddison. Callum saying is Ronaldo going to play? Expensive if not. Again, the assumption is that he's going to play at least one of the games based on the injury confirmation that's come out from Rangnick. He hasn't been ruled out. He hasn't been guaranteed to play. So we're in a kind of a really tricky point right now in terms of Ronaldo. If you own him, you definitely keep him. If you're looking to buy, of course, there is that added risk there. And you could go to Harry Kane as a bit of an option alternative. Harrison saying Bruno or KDB for some replacement. Based on the projected points, it's got to be Bruno right now. Best captain, JJ asks, got to be Ronaldo. Skip saying, should I bench Salah or transfer Silva out to get Ronaldo? So again, this really depends on your squad depth right now. If you have Silva in your team, Silva to get Ronaldo, I'm assuming that's Bernardo Silva, which means that you're going to have to take a second transfer to fund that, whoever you're selling in the forward line. So that's going to really depend, mate, on who you're selling. I think it's definitely a viable move to hold Salah now that you've held him this long. But I think all in all, I would probably look to move Salah and then have a strategy to bring him back in the coming game weeks. Unfortunately, we don't know about the Arsenal Spurs status right now. That is going to be probably determined after the deadline, which really sucks. Stuart saying, can we go through top capacity options this week, please? Hopefully, our algorithm and projected points has answered that already, Stuart. But as I mentioned, in terms of game week 22, I think Ronaldo is right up there as the best option. Harry Kane, a brilliant second place, and Fernandes and De Gea, really nice options as well. I don't think you want to go for someone like Mason Mount as captaincy. I just think that's a little bit too punty. I think those 4 that I mentioned are really nice options. You could go for a single game weeker in the likes of Jota or Trent Alexander-Arnold, but I just feel like with the ceiling that's on offer to these double game week players, you probably just want to favour that side of things. We got Trossard or Lucas Moura. Again, I think Trossard is a brilliant differential, so I probably would just go for Trossard. We covered that on the projected points there. So, questionnaire, originally thinking Salah to Maddison and a -4 for Watkins to Ronaldo. Now with only 1 game week for Leicester and Watkins good fixtures, not so sure anymore. So yeah, as I mentioned, guys, with Aston Villa's status right now, we do think that they are going to have a double game week in the near future. So if you are looking to sell Watkins, I think that is a little bit of a risk going forward because he looks like a great option if they were to have a double game week in 23 or even 24, 25, depending on when it lands. So I think Salah out is a solid move, but you could even look at somebody like Bruno Fernandes, as we touched on. I think he is going to do okay this game week. I'm not expecting him to pull up trees, but I think he could be a nice move in the team. Harrison saying, are West Ham most likely to keep a clean sheet against Leeds? Well, looking at the projected points for defenders, you can see that is just going to get up the game week 22 a minute. Now, when we look at West Ham assets, you can see there's not many on the list right now available. And in terms of actual West Ham defenders, if I bring it down to, apologies, if I bring up someone like Dawson, Kufal, for example, we have there at 4.1 projected points. So while it isn't necessarily a clean sheet, we are predicting some sort of potential there for West Ham defenders in terms of either attacking potential, because we know Leeds defensively are still not as solid as a lot of managers have seen in last season. So I think West Ham, from a defensive perspective, you can start them. I know a lot of managers right now do have the likes of Dawson, etc., who they brought in for the double in 21. And I'm probably thinking, can they start him in a single game week? And I do think that is a nice move to make, but I really would urge you to try and bring in a double game week player if you can. Just covering off some questions, just checking out what Tom's answered already. Obviously, I don't want to be repeating too many things. Likif saying Ronaldo or Kane. I think Ronaldo is the way to go. But of course, with the injury status, if you are having a little bit of nerves about Ronaldo, then I appreciate Kane is probably the easier option to go to, as we know that he has got guaranteed game time. And under Conte, he's looking a little bit better at least. Do you think Telles will start? Now, guys, let me know in the chat. Is Shaw definitely ruled out for game week 22 in the first game? I'm not 100% sure if he is suspended or not. Let's have a look. So, yes, he is suspended for... He's suspended until the 19th of January. So, looking at the fixtures, that is going to be him out for Aston Villa away, followed by Brentford away. Now, that's a really interesting one for Dalot owners right now, because I think the general consensus right now is Dalot's game time is massively at risk. But we have seen Dalot playing at left back from time to time, and we don't know whether Telles or Dalot is going to operate at left back. So I want to know, guys, if you are in the chat right now, if you do have the likes of Dalot, is it somebody who you are going to be starting? Because there is a chance there that maybe Dalot operates left back and then plays right back in the second game. That could be a really interesting one to consider. But in terms of Telles, I think either Dalot starts left back or Telles starts left back. But I think you're only going to get one game out of him. So I don't think he is a solid move to bring in. Nicky's taken out Cristiano Ronaldo. That is very, very brave, Nicky. Hope it pays off for you. But looking at our projected points, I think it could punish you, but I really hope it doesn't. But that is very brave. It's got to be one of the bravest things I have read so far. Okay. Gojo saying it, DCL to King. Okay, so looking at this game week in isolation, yes, I think King is a solid move to go for. But I'm just going to bring up the fixtures right now for Everton over a longer term perspective. Now, I've got these up over the next 6 game weeks. No, I think 7 game weeks I've got up here. Now, it's worth mentioning that the landscape is going to change. This fixture analyzer right now is going to completely shift once doubles get dropped in, which makes other teams more attractive than others. But Everton away at Norwich, I would not sell Calvert-Lewin away to Norwich. One of the worst teams in the league. Calvert-Lewin back from injury. Yes, he hasn't had the best game week 21, missing the penalty, but everything centres around Calvert-Lewin at Everton from an attacking perspective. And I think with Aston Villa at home, Newcastle, Leeds, Southampton, they are brilliant fixtures for Calvert-Lewin. And when we look at someone like Josh King, yes, I know it is very, very attractive over the next 2 game weeks with that double in game week 22 and that amazing home fixture against Norwich in game week 23. But then we look at it longer term with West Ham, Brighton, Villa, Man United, Arsenal. I think that's going to be a tricky time for Watford forward. So yes, you could go Calvert-Lewin for a short-term move to King. But I just look at that Norwich away fixture for Calvert-Lewin and think that's just another example of a single game week player that I would be scared to sell in this with this weekend coming up. Okay, just checking out what else we have. Nikki's saying Sterling or Alexander-Arnold. Now, if that's in terms of captaincy, that is a super close one. I think I would probably go for Trent Alexander-Arnold. Sterling, obviously game time is at risk at Man City. He has been better of recent game weeks, but we really don't know whether he's going to get guaranteed game time. Trent, we definitely know will. We have to remember Sterling against a decent Chelsea defence. Yes, they haven't been as good as they were at the start of the season, but they're still a very, very good defensive side. Trent, we know, has brilliant potential for attacking returns, and clean sheet potential looks pretty decent against Brentford. I would probably just favour Alexander-Arnold just because of the risk of Sterling's game time. Jules saying, is Leicester double in 23 or not? No announcement yet, unless it has happened while I've been on this live stream. I think nothing's been announced just yet. Apologies. Just checking out here what we got. Agar saying, I think Lukaku won't play against City. Okay, that's going to be a really interesting one to see. I won't be surprised if he plays, to be honest with you, but it's going to be really interesting to see what he goes for in that game. Victor saying, what do you think of Salah to Bruno / KDB and Pukki to Saint-Maximin, Captain Ronaldo or Bruno? So if you had to go for one, I would go for Bruno because of that double game week. I think that is the better move to make. Not to say Kevin De Bruyne couldn't do well in that single game week. And in regards to Saint-Maximin, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens there with the arrival of Chris Wood. Now, looking at the algorithm points for Saint-Maximin as a forward in this game week in isolation, you can see that he isn't actually appearing until a little bit later on at 3.6 projected points. Now, if we refresh our memories, he has got a home fixture against Watford, which I do think is a really good game for him. But I think personally, I would want to see just a little bit more from Newcastle, whether to invest in them. At 6.6 million, I think the likes of King and Dennis just absolutely dominate him in regards of options, especially because they have a double game week. And we really need to see how the introduction of Chris Wood is going to impact Saint-Maximin. Is it going to benefit him because being a bit more of a hold-up man, is he going to be able to bring him into the games? Or is it going to hinder him because of the lack of pace that Chris Wood offers in the counter-attack? So I need to see a bit more personally from this new front line of Newcastle before I would go investing in someone like Saint-Maximin, in particular based on those predicted points for him. West Ham almost never keeps clean sheets against anyone. Yeah, I know. We were very lucky who brought in Dawson and like Kufal, who picked up a good clean sheet in that game. Just checking out the comments, guys. Apologies, loads of just flew through, so I'm just checking them out. Aiden saying, start Lamperty or Gallagher. I think based on the double game week in isolation, I probably would go for... apologies. I would probably go for... Let me just bring them up. So, just refresh my memory. Crystal Palace away to Brighton. Brighton with the double game week. I would go for Lamperty as the option. I would bench Gallagher for sure out of those. As always, guys, if you're enjoying the video, make sure you do give it a like and hit that subscribe button. We're trying to hit... a landmark of subscribers before the end of the week. So really appreciate you guys showing the support. Alexander says, Sterling to KDB for a hit. No, I would not make that move. With Sterling right now, yes, his game time is always at risk. But I just think KDB's is equally at risk as well. And for a -4, I just don't think it's worth it there. Ronaldo or Kane, with the injury status of Ronaldo being up in the air, I would have said Ronaldo if there was no worries. Now I think Kane is definitely alongside Ronaldo as a pick for game week 22. I think I still just favour Ronaldo, but I appreciate if you are worried about the game time for Kane. For Ronaldo, Kane's an easy route for points. Well, we hope anyway. Lucas Moura or Bowen on free hit, please help. Well, again, looking at our projected points. So first and foremost, Lucas Moura is going to benefit from a minutes perspective with the absence of Son. We see that Moura has got a game at home to Arsenal and away to Leicester. Bowen, on the other hand, has a single game week at home to Leeds. So based on that in isolation, Moura probably does look like the better move for points this game week because of his double game week. And when we look at it there, we can see Lucas Moura projected to score 6.4 points. Bowen, on the other hand, 5.9. So even though Bowen does have a single game week, he still looks like he has a great chance for points in this week. So I probably would just favour Lucas Moura because of the double game week, because of the potential. But I think you want to ask yourself, who do you want to own? Apologies, you're a free hit. So yes, I probably would go for Lucas Moura on the free hit as a differential move. But I really like Bowen as well. Really like Bowen. I'll try and squeeze both in if you can. Start Jota or Bowen. Has to be Jota. Although I would look at your team and Sabeka and say, who am I playing ahead of Bowen? I think both of those have to start in your team 100%. The skip saying, is Gray or DCL not a good shout? Yes, like both of those players as picks. DCL probably just favouring Gray, but I appreciate there's some really good forwards this game week at cheap prices like King and Dennis. Apologise guys, I'm taking ages to keep up and try not to skip anyone too much out of this. So we got Hunt, what do you think? Ronaldo, Cucurella and Mount for a -8. Unfortunately, that's going to really depend on who you're selling. But I like all those players that you're bringing in, if that helps. But again, I don't know who you're selling there, unfortunately. A lot of people saying about who to captain. We've got one from Harrison saying Bruno, King, Bowen or Antonio to captain. I would probably just go for Bruno of that bunch. Yes, I do like Bowen and Antonio, but because of Bruno's double, I think I would favour that route for sure. Again, guys, it's worth mentioning, in terms of vice captaincy, I really don't recommend putting it on a player in the same team as the captain, because if there is a risk of the game week being postponed, that is going to hinder both your captaincy and vice captaincy potential. So I would put the captaincy and vice captaincy on different players from different teams. Com saying, I've decided to just transfer Salah to Mount and go without Kane, Ronaldo and the 2 Watford boys. Praying for the best, buddy. I'm praying for the best. Aiden, I think I've covered that question. I'll start Lamperty over Gallagher because of his double game week. Mount or Dennis as captain. Oh, that's super close. If I had to pick one of the two, I probably would just go for Mason Mount, but it's really close between the two there. Trossard or Bowen. In terms of this game week in isolation, I think Trossard probably just nicks it because of the double game week, but in the form that Bowen's in, I would look, from a stats perspective, I think Trossard's a great pick. Based on the form recently, I think it's really hard to look past Bowen. So it really depends on what kind of manager you are, whether you go for raw stats or you go for form and gut feel, then I'd probably go for Bowen. Michael's saying, would you rather bring in Bruno for a 1 free transfer or a -4 for Gray and Cristiano Ronaldo? I think I'd probably just go for the 1 free transfer of Bruno in that move. Omar saying, will Ronaldo play Aston Villa game? Unfortunately, not too sure on that one. We don't have any guaranteed information on it. I do apologise. It's just nothing clear cut on that one. Good point there but from the Pyramids saying, but Gallagher hasn't played the last 2 games. I think that's a real important point as well. Sebastian saying, will Dalot play? What do you think? I think, as I mentioned, Dalot is a real minutes risk. I'm just hoping that the absence of Shaw in the first game might give Dalot potential to play left back in the first game and right back in the second one, fingers crossed. Otherwise, I don't see him playing both games at right back personally. George saying, is Maddison a good pick? Is there a chance of double in 22? With Maddison's cancellation of the Burnley game, I don't think Maddison's necessarily a go-to option now, unfortunately. Com saying, with Welbeck rumoured to be back, won't Trossard move out onto the wing? Yes, so it's a really valid point in regards to Trossard. He has been operating in the centre-forward role from time to time. I still think he's a great option in that side, even if he does operate on the left-hand side. So Welbeck being in the team, I don't think it necessarily has a massive impact on Trossard. I think if we have a quick look at Trossard's heat map, just bring it up here. I just have to take out one of these. Apologies. Give me 2 seconds, guys. I'm just going to bring up Brighton with Trossard in the team. Ignore the right-hand side, guys. That's obviously just solid right now. So you can see with Trossard here, his touch heat map operating a lot on the left-hand side. But what we can do here on our Fantasy Football Fix player heat map is basically have a heat map with and without certain players. So if we have here teammates on the pitch must include and teammates on the pitch must exclude. If I was to put in here Welbeck and I was to put in, if I was to put in Welbeck on the pitch alongside, I'm going to put also Morpay in the equation because obviously we know he does play in the centre forward role as well. He's basically played 243 minutes while both of those have been involved in the game. And we can see that in terms of underlying stats, not the best in terms of expected goals at 0.24, 7 shots, not the best for Trossard when he's been operating with effectively a centre forward on the pitch. So I do think there is definitely some value to that point that you have made. But I still think Trossard is a nice move this game week with the double game week that they have, and really nice differential. Antonio faces Leeds with a terrible defense. If you can afford Ronaldo with not many hits, do it. Yeah, I think that's a valid point. Lucas is saying Trossard or Gray for the next 3 game weeks. For the next 3 game weeks, based on the double game week that Trossard has, I think Trossard just nicks it in that battle. Apologies, I was just trying to catch up now. Connor, I'm on a free hit. Should I trade out Ronaldo for Lukaku? I would not sell. If you're on about selling Ronaldo, do not sell Ronaldo. I would definitely keep Ronaldo this game week. If you're looking to get rid of Lukaku for Ronaldo, I think that is viable. But Lukaku flying under the radar massively this game week. Harris saying, reckon Cucurella or Alonso a choice? If so, which one? Again, on our projected points, Alonso is coming out on top. So I think he probably is a nice move for this game week. But I think it is viable that Cucurella is a really nice differential if you don't have the funds available for Alonso. Just seeing Tom there's put in the chat about, it looks like Arsenal are asking for the game against Spurs to be postponed. So I've spoke about Kane being a guaranteed game time pick. But if that does come into fruition, that is going to obviously hinder Kane's double game week. So then it kind of throws up the conversation. Ronaldo a risk of injury, Kane the risk of postponement. Projected points are in the favour of Ronaldo. So if you really want to go for a premium, I'd probably just favour Ronaldo now because Kane's postponement could potentially happen. So good shout there, Tom, for putting that in. That's going to help a lot of people in their decision making, I hope. Big shame as well. A few people saying about Ronaldo, Rashford versus Fernandes. Based on our projected points, it has to be Fernandes. Rashford right now just looks shot of confidence. I think his game time is at a risk. Fernandes, I think his game time is guaranteed. I think he's definitely the better pick of the two. Again, guys, I'm just going to throw up while we're talking here because I appreciate we've got a lot of questions here. I'm just going to keep up our algorithm squad just so you can check it out if you are building a free hit team or looking to target players in particular positions. Based on our algorithm, this squad here is based on our projections, the best squad that you can go for, and in turn, the best free hit team that you can go for. Obviously, if that situation with Spurs does arise, then it does hinder Kane's potential, but it's worth mentioning it on there. Apologies, guys. Again, chat is absolutely flown by me, so I'm just trying to catch up. Okay, so George saying Maddison's still good or no? No, I wouldn't be considering Maddison now. Ronaldo, Kane, Mcallister, or Dennis as captain. It's got to be Ronaldo of the bunch there. I still think he is the most viable option. Connor saying about King or Dennis. Connor, earlier on this stream, I did do a comparison between King and Dennis, so I really recommend just rewinding it back to then. But long story short, I still think King wins the battle. And you see there in our algorithm score for Game Week 22, we do have King as the pick to go for. So I think King is still the man to own, even long term. Thoughts on Jota captain? Yes, I think if you're not there with Ronaldo, Bruno's, no doubler that actually looks like a viable move, then I think Jota is the better pick to go for as a single game week player. I don't think you guys need to be too worried about captaining a single game week player if you have Jota. I still think he's doing very well at against Brentford in the absence of Salah and Mane. And guys, let me know in the chat, have you still not made your transfer yet? I'm currently streaming right now, and I haven't even made my transfer. We've got 15 minutes until the deadline. Do not forget your transfers. And you guys in the chat need to remind me to make my transfer. I'm going to do it on this stream. Just an update. Me, right now, I have Son. I'm likely to go to Bruno. I want to keep the money in the midfield and go for someone like Salah in 2 game weeks' time. Let me know in the chat. Have you already made your transfer or not? Lucas saying Trossard or Gray for the next 3 game weeks. Covered that one. Apologies for repeating that one. Do I get Cucurella for a -4? Harrison saying that is going to be completely dependent on who you're selling. But I like Cucurella as an option. Just remember, blank game week in game week 24. Sure, I'm saying, please help me. Who to bench? Kilman, Cancelo, Trent, Rudiger. Wow, a lot here to bench. Okay, so I'm assuming you're going to be looking to bench 3 of those picks. realistically, the ones that you can't bench: Cancelo, Trent, Bowen, Jota. I would even put Moura in the equation now. Foden, you can't bench. Dennis, you can't bench. DCL, you can't bench. I think Martinelli, you probably want to bench there. Kilman, you probably want to bench. And I would even chuck in the equation of Reguilon because of the potential risk of game time as he has been out injured. Quaz, is it? Apologies. Captain and Ronaldo. I took out Son for Maddison. Should I take a -4 to bring in Kane for Antonio? No, I wouldn't make that move. I think it's a really great fixture for Antonio at home to Leeds. I would stick with that move. A lot of people say about who the best captaincy is. Again, I would rewind this video. I covered it a lot in the algorithm points, but I think Ronaldo is still the captaincy pick to go for. Should I play Cancelo or Watkins? I just don't think you can drop Cancelo. I think Watkins is a brilliant pick in the long term, but Cancelo is a different league. I would go for Cancelo of the two. He offers potential attack and returns. The Arsenal versus Spurs postponement decision will be made tomorrow, Tom confirms. Okay, so that's going to be interesting to see. And again, guys, if you can get this video to 50 likes, I really would appreciate it. If you haven't already, please do like the video. It's going to spread it out to anyone who's in desperate need of FPL wisdom. Fingers crossed I'm offering a little bit of that. But I think we're only a few likes away from 50. So really do appreciate if you guys could drop a like and get us past that 50. That would be massively, massively appreciated. Okay, we got one from Not About Dennis to the King. Again, guys, I think you need to rewind the video and check out that. Again, I covered King as the better pick, but we had a little bit of a comparison on that underlying stats. Mark saying King or Fernandes as captain. I think Fernandes just wins the battle there. I think his game time is guaranteed. If Ronaldo is absent, that means he's going to be on penalties. And they have a double, which is decent. I would go for Fernandes for sure of those two. Connor saying, now that the Arsenal game could get postponed, is it worth risking Lukaku for Kane and Trossard for Lucas? Really tricky one there. Again, we're all doing it on assumptions. Yes, the game could get postponed. I think you're in a situation right now, I probably would just wait it out. And unfortunately, it is just going to be a situation where what will be with the cancellations. If you're sat there with Kane and Moura, it might be worth shifting one of those potentially if you think the game's going to get postponed. George saying Captain Bowen or King. I think King probably just nicks it of the two. But with Bowen's form that he's in right now, I think it's going to be a really close one between the two. But I think King probably just nicks it because of the double. Thank you guys for getting us past 50. We hit 60 likes now. Can we get 100? It's a big ask. I know we got very short. But again, if you haven't liked it, guys, please do. Oscar saying, can you update this template without Spurs players in case Arsenal game is cancelled? Unfortunately, Oscar, we won't be able to update this algorithm squad before the game week 22 deadline. It's only about 13 minutes away. I do apologise. What we can do though is give you almost like a live update of who the better alternatives to Kane are. I hope that helps. So if I get the algorithm points up here in terms of forwards, we can see that Ronaldo and King, Kane and King top the lead for algorithm points. But it's actually Morpay. That is the 4th best pick for double game week 22. That might help your team potentially. If you're looking to fill your team out with premium options, the next best premium is Lukaku, projected to score 5.3 points. Hope that helps there, buddy. Obviously, unfortunately, we won't be able to update the algorithm squad in 10 minutes. Otherwise, we would love to. Again, thank you guys for liking the video. Really do appreciate it. And hopefully it's helping. I hope you guys are finding some value. I haven't actually done a deadline stream before where I've got it this close to the deadline. So, you know, and guys, I actually need to bloody sort my transfers out. Let me know in the chat, guys. Who are your transfers at the time of recording right now? Let me know. I'm currently in a point where I have Son. I think I'm going to have to go for Fernandes to keep my slot in the team available for Salah in the longer term. Let me know in the chat, guys. If you've made your transfer, who have you gone for? And if you haven't made your transfer, who are you tempted by? It is crazy right now in terms of this Arsenal potential postponement. Absolutely kills us. Just quickly looking at the team right now. Ooh. Yeah, a lot to consider right now, guys, in terms of the team. Yes. Let me see what you guys have got right now. Okay, some people saying about best free defenders for the free hit. You can see on the screen right now, on the algorithm squad, those are the 3 we would recommend. Trent Alexander-Arnold, Alonso and Cucurella as your moves to go for. Callum saying Mora or Trossard. I think Trossard just nicks it in terms of our projected points for game weeks 22 in isolation. Let me just lock in my transfer, guys. Let me know, in particular, Tom, let me know, buddy, what are your thoughts on me doing... Oh, you're doing Son to Bruno as well. Yeah, that has justified it for me. It's going to be Son to Bruno. Let me get this done, guys, so I can actually focus on the last 5 to 10 minutes so we don't have to panic at all, because that is the worry that I've got. So let me just ship out Son. Let me bring in Mr. Fernandes a minute for you. Again, guys, if that's enough reason for you to bring in Fernandes, then, you know, I'm doing it. So if that helps you at all, obviously, I could be a terrible manager. You might not even appreciate my thing. So I've just done it. It's done, guys. Fernandes in. Now the deliberation of who to bench. That is the problem I didn't even think about. Looking like I might have to bench Watkins of the players available, which is absolutely killing me, but it's got to be done. Okay, guys. Dropped it in there. Captaincy is on Fernandes for me, and my voice captain is on Josh King. Hope that helps out, guys. Right, I can actually focus now. Alonso or Rudiger? I would go for Alonso of the 2. KDB or Sterling as a punt? Oh, super close, that one. I think that is one that I'm just going to let our algorithm decide for you there, buddy. So hopefully this can help out. So we got Sterling projected to score... Oh, God. Sterling projected to score 2.8 points. And the reason... He's actually flagged. He had coronavirus, expected to return on the 15th. Okay, so unfortunately, our projected points here are slightly skewed because we do have him as a COVID case, which means that his minutes are at risk. So that is going to hinder the projections there. Based on that, because he had COVID, I'm going to go for Kevin De Bruyne as the option to go for. So yeah, I think Kevin De Bruyne is probably the punt I would go for between Kevin De Bruyne and Sterling. And Kevin De Bruyne, little bit of a punisher against Chelsea. Does very well. I remember that worldie at Stamford Bridge. So I think Kevin De Bruyne is probably the one. Bruno, KDB or Rafinha? Got to be Bruno, Callum. Hope that helps. KDB, I've covered that one. Trent or Bowen as captain? Super close. I probably would just favour Trent on the captaincy there, just because although he's reliant on everybody else to pick up the clean sheet, he has still got attacking potential there. I would go for... Yes, Tom, great shout. Elite transfers. For those that haven't obviously been on the live streams before and checked out the Elite team, this is something that we offer on our premium tools and something that is an amazing part of this website because if you didn't know, quick cover up, Elite 11 are an accumulation of top managers in the FPL community. You can see there, top 74 top 10k finishes, 55 top 5k finishes, some amazing managers here. And what you can do is check out numerous managers, transfers, moves. So for example, here we can see Mr. Black has activated his transfers at 6:19 p.m. So only 3 minutes ago. Now, the best thing about Elite 11 here is if you find a manager that you resonate with and you feel like he is somebody that you operate on the same level as. So for example, Mr. Black here favors fixtures over form and uses little stats. If you sign up to our premium membership, get access to this and you feel like Mr. Black reflects the type of manager you are, you can activate push notifications and email alerts. So 3 or 4 minutes ago, you would have had an email or a notification telling you that Mr. Black has made these transfers. And he has done Salah to Trossard and Jesus to Ronaldo. Not sure why he still has Jesus. That's an interesting call. But gone for 2 players who are in our algorithm 11. No surprises there whatsoever. Dan Bennett hasn't made his transfer yet. Neither has Philman. Ginger Assassin. So a lot of managers here are waiting closer and closer to the deadline. You can see that Walter Randazzo. What a great name. Doesn't take too many risks. More of a fixtures guy. Again, this could resonate with you as a manager. You can see manager notes there, which is a great way of getting the insight of an elite manager. Amazing consistency in his FPL ranks. And you can see the moves that he made. Son to Fernandes and Lacazette to Ronaldo. So one of the top managers on our Elite 11 favouring Fernandes as his Son replacement. Just going to see if there's any others here. I'm going to skip James just because it looks like he's activated his wildcard here, or free hit potentially. Sorry, on a free hit. So it's very difficult to get an understanding on the different transfers. But you can see the current team that he has on screen. A few players here that reflect our Elite 11, Algorithm 11, apologies. Plenty of moves here. A goalkeeper transfer for Matt going for De Gea. Plenty of stuff here from Kevin. Brilliant insight there into the mind. He's gone for Edison to De Gea, Son to Fernandes. Some great stuff there, guys. Honestly, really recommend you checking it out on our premium membership, Elite 11. Something I use all the time. Great insight into some top managers in the game. Going to leave up our algorithm squad here just so it can be as a background while we answer the last few questions here. But again, guys, I really do recommend heading over to fantasyfootballfix.com, checking out the premium membership, some amazing tools available, and you can always upload your squad for free just to take a look around the site. So, Callum saying, have you not got Ronaldo? No, I do not have Ronaldo personally. I just can't bring myself to sell King, Antonio, or Watkins as we speak. Philip saying, is Arsenal Spurs cancelled? Nothing cancelled as we speak. Arsenal a 12-man squad. Yeah, it looks like the reason being for Arsenal is because of the injury status that they have right now, and COVID and AFCON means that they're going to be in a tricky spot as we speak. So it just looks very, very tricky right now for Arsenal to carry out that game. But there's a solid chance that it could get postponed, which is going to be killer to see. Let me know, guys, is anyone benching Watkins? That is going to be a very, very interesting one to see. But I think I've probably got to bench Watkins at home. Let me know, guys, would you do Dalot or Watkins? Who would you start between the two? Talk about the Burnley-Watford game getting cancelled. Yeah, there's a solid chance, again, with Burnley's situation right now, that could be at risk as well as we speak. So if he's saying, I'm aware, but I'm on free hit, so which one should I start? And your question previously was Moura or Lookman / Madison. I would go for Moura of the two, definitely. Hope that helps. But again, guys, if you're on this live stream right now, please do keep it up, but have a separate tab with your transfers. We only have 3 minutes, I believe, until the deadline. Please do not miss it. I've already made my transfer. Son to Fernandes. He's got the captaincy. He is going to be my captain for this game week. Watkins, first sub. Dawson, second sub. Apologies, Tom, but I have the boy Dawson on the bench. I've just got to play Dalot, I feel, based on a double game week, and just take the wrath of him not starting at all. Ronaldo or Bruno? It really depends on your squad, Adam. I think Ronaldo is the better move, but if you want to just have guaranteed game time, I think Bruno is the pick to go for. Lucas Moura or Kane, who has better points for the price? Well, we have Kane as the second highest scoring player this game week. I can bring up the algorithm points for you so you can deduce your own conclusion. But Kane, 8.8 projected points. Lucas Moura projected to score 6.4. So judge that how you will. I think Kane offers a nice placeholder for someone in the premium slot. Lucas Moura, you can come down and open up loads of additional funds available. So yeah, guys, like I said, please get them transfers confirmed because we have so little time now. I'm just double checking my team to make sure it's all locked in. Something that I do suffer from is I look at the screen and I still need to look at it 20 times just to make sure I have the right players in their right places. Just always the thing that I have, unfortunately. Yes, I think we're locked in. I think we're locked in, guys. Bloody hell, nightmare doing this. Callum, should I last minute get rid of Kane and Trossard for Bruno and Dennis? Already have King. Super tough because we know the Spurs and Arsenal game is at risk. I would probably... I love the Bruno move if you can bring him in and Dennis, but I would probably just hold the two and hope for the best, buddy. It's a really sticky situation to be in. Lad saying, best mid to bench this game week and play the next game weeks. Ooh, best midfielder to bench this game week. Well, the best thing we can do here is look at the projected points. Guys, we're so close to the deadline. Please get your teams locked in. 22. Let's have a look a bit long term. 26. But let's get rid of 22. So let's go for 23. Next 4 game weeks, if you're looking for a midfielder after game weeks 22, of course Jota, but Kevin De Bruyne leads the way. Sterling's the Bernardos, even Madison kind of comes out as a good option. Hope that helps. Apologies, time is of the essence for us here. Raising going for Lukaku, I like that. Why not start Watkins or Foden? I think you've got to go Foden. I think the potential is massive for him. I would go for that. Lads saying best mid to bench this. I hope I've covered that one. Captain Ronaldo or Dennis. I would go for Ronaldo. His projected points are amazing. Start two of Semedo, Cancelo, Foden, or Sissoko. Start two of them. I would start Semedo. I would start Cancelo and Foden. Two Man City players you just can't do without. Semedo has a decent home fixture, but you've got to start Cancelo and Foden. Foden's game time is always a risk. If you haven't liked the stream already, guys, please do. Really appreciate the support. Lucas Moura or Bruno. It's got to be Bruno of the two based on the projected points and their favourable double game week. Again, guys, just want to say a massive shout out for tuning into this live stream. We're so close to the deadline, guys. I really hope you guys have enjoyed this one. I think we have actually crossed it now. I think that's it, guys. Let's have a look at this, the site. Yes, that's it. Okay, guys. That is going to wrap up the live stream. I really hope that you guys have enjoyed this one. It's been our first proper deadline live stream. Hopefully, we're going to get better and better at these as we go along. A lot of these live streams that I've been doing in the past haven't been time restricted, so I've been able to deep dive into players in a bit more detail. This has been a little bit more different. I've been reduced to the bloody drink to try and get me through it based on the stress and panic, but hopefully it has been it's been valuable to you guys. Let me know in the chat, guys, already before you dip off, who were your transfers? Really interested to know what moves that you made. I want to see if there's a few differentials chucked in there. And again, on your way out, guys, on this live stream, please do give it a like and a subscribe. If you haven't checked out our previous videos, we got brilliant videos from FPL Raptor and FPL Phillips, and we got an amazing fourth presenter coming on board next week. Can't wait to be doing live streams with him. I don't know if there's been an official announcement on that, so I'll wait till that does get announced, but it's really exciting times coming forward for Fantasy Football Fix. We have plenty to discuss, and hopefully plenty of content coming out. We drop videos daily, so don't miss out on that, guys. Make sure you hit that notification bell, because it's carnage right now, FPL, and you don't want to be missing a thing. So I'm going to wrap it up, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a great double game week 22. Let's fingers crossed it's a double and we don't get any more cancellations. Make sure you hit a like on the way out. Dominic went for Watkins to Ronaldo and Son to Foden. Interesting moves of Foden. Somebody hasn't been spoken about enough. If he is definitely going to be getting game time, I think he'd be a brilliant move. Fingers crossed, Dominic, that comes in good for you. So, guys, I'm going to wrap up the stream. Thank you very much for tuning in. Have a great game week, and we will talk soon. I'm sure there's going to be another live stream, but there's going to be plenty of content dropping next week ahead of game week 23. Take care, guys. Stay safe.